gay and transgender teachers
Mm-hmm.
going on TikTok explaining about how they're so proud that they've taught their kindergarten students what neo-pronouns are. And
Yeah.
like things like that, like
Yeah.
kindergarten students, what
And
do they even know?
the kids will eat it up, though, because the teacher,
Kids
the
will
adult,
eat anything up.
yeah, the adult is proud of them. So they're getting praise for this. And of course, it makes the child feel good, and they're getting positive reinforcement.
Yeah, and the
through
kid
this.
doesn't even know.
It doesn't even know. Yeah. Totally oblivious.
How do they understand? Like,
I feel like it's too late at that point. I mean, you don't have, if the parent's not, correcting it, but how, if the parent's not correcting it, then they're lost. But even if the parent is correcting it, they're spending more time in that classroom with the teacher than they are their own parents. Because the parents, they see them off to school at the school bus. They send them a lunch. They get back around 3 p.m, possibly. They do their homework. Mom might serve. This isn't a typical, typical family. Mom will serve dinner. Dad will serve dinner around 5:30. And then maybe a little more homework. Maybe watch a movie with the family, or just go do your own thing upstairs.
right.
And then bedtime around 9:30. And then repeat the process. So you got maybe a grand total of four, maybe 5 hours. Whereas you had 8 to 9, with the teachers and in that school setting. But also, too, when that bill was passed, a lot of teachers quit.
Oh, the Don't Say Gay bill? Yeah.
Yeah, when that bill passed. So that, there was I can't remember the number on it. I heard this a while back, but a lot of teachers quit. And then a few of them, there was this one particular man who was gay, and he was teaching us, and he goes on TikTok and he says, well, how am I supposed to teach these kids if I can't talk about my gayness? What do you mean?
Your gayness has nothing to do with it.
How dare you?
Teach them math, what you're supposed to be doing.
Oh, really?
But how are they supposed to know what my partner and I do on the weekend?
Yeah. It's just ridiculous. So, yeah, schools these days are not teaching. I'm sure kids are coming out of school these days that can't read.
My middle schoolers I taught, they were lucky if they actually knew how old I was. I had, it's like toward the end of the year, I had my middle schoolers ask me, try to guess how old I actually was. And they just didn't have a single clue. They had no idea.
Now, when did you teach middle school?
It's a middle school ministry at another church I used to work at. But we, taught biblical things.
Mm-hmm.
Discuss the Bible in small groups and broke up in it. But in all the groups of middle school students that I taught, they don't know this stuff. They're not. They can't understand it. They can't grasp it. And so I don't think they have no reason to be being taught this stuff. And because they couldn't even, yeah.
Yeah, there's no reason for them to be taught. It's hard to wrap my mind around because, I didn't know, I can't imagine how my mind would have developed if I had known all those things. Like, let's just say I went to a gay pride parade at 5 years old. There's a lot of heinous things that happen during those parades, especially down in San Francisco.
Yeah. I just came from San Diego, man. Yeah, I know.
I'm sure you know. So it's just how is a 5-year-old mind and brain supposed to, wrap their head around that because they're going to emulate it. It's horrible. It's a horrible thing. And
that's why at first I'm so glad my wife and I are at the agreement that we're at now, because when we first started dating, I was like, when I have kids, they're either going to a private Christian school or they're being homeschooled.
And I've said the same thing.
And she was kind of, at first, because, she grew up in San Diego, grew up in Southern California. And so at first she was kind of like, oh, I'm not sure. She wasn't discounting what I was saying. She was listening, but she's like, I don't know if I don't want them to, end up weird because they're homeschool kids. Because some homeschool kids are weird. It's true.
I was homeschooled from 4th grade to 10th grade.
Yeah.
Am I weird? Don't answer that.
I was going to say, I'm going to answer it. But I mean, heck, I went to public school my whole life, but I'm weird too. But
we all have our quirks.
yeah, but now, with her having worked in the school here, it's just she's like, oh, our homeschooling our kids, and I'm like, yeah, I know. Or we would keep them in homeschooling.
Yeah.
I'm like, there's just so much stuff that's just so bad.
Yeah, and they're not going to, let's just say, forget all that stuff, that sexualization stuff. They're not even, because they're not even getting a real education. Because this critical race theory stuff as well has worked its way into the textbooks.
Yeah, and not just in any type of government type class where you might, or a philosophy type class where you might dig into that.
Right, yeah.
No, or
it's
a
in
law class. It's
math class.
Yeah.
It's in math textbooks. And I think what I heard was that some of that curriculum had gotten sent to some Florida schools, and that they said they're not going to use these textbooks if that's in it. And wouldn't you know it, those books, they returned those books to the manufacturer, to the publishers, and the textbooks were sent back without that stuff. It was just math, But they tried whoever these people are trying to work that stuff in so that you can't go a single minute without looking at something, doing a simple task like doing, making muffins.
Yeah.
And you're trying to measure out some flour, and let's just say you're trying to double the recipe. Oh, it says normal recipe, it says 2, so I need to use 2 + 4 cups of flour. And then all of a sudden that brings into mind the inherent racism in the flour industry.
Yeah.
That's what they're trying to get that worked in there somewhere. And I'm not joking. It's
No,
100% serious.
Yeah, I'm going to make some rice. Now, do I go to the store and buy Minute Maid, jasmine rice, or Uncle Ben's? Oh, we don't want to buy Uncle Ben's or Zatarain's.
Yeah.
Because that helps with the problem of white supremacy. That supports white supremacy.
Yeah.
And also don't get Butterworth for your pancakes.
Yeah, Mrs. Buttersworth, yeah. So.
Or Aunt Jemima.
Yeah. Aunt Jemima.
Or Land O'Lakes. Don't get any of it.
Don't get any of it. Yeah, just take it. We're all going to have, you remember those classic, like government food, like MREs, for example.
Yeah.
They had no logos on them.
Everything's wrapped in brown foil.
Everything's
and
wrapped
brown
in
paper.
brown paper with block lettering for your nutrition facts and the title of what it is.
Wheat snack bread. That was the best.
Yeah, wheat snack bread,
and
cheese spread with jalapeno.
Yep.
Yeah, banana muffin top.
Yeah, banana muffin top. And then there was the marble cake.
Yes, that was delicious.
That was good.
Yep. My personal favorite was the fudge brownie.
The fudge brownie was really good.
That was my personal favorite dessert from the MRE.
Yeah.
But anyway, everything's going to be like that. It's like they just want everything to be so gray.
Yeah. And we talked about that last show.
And yet their pride flag, they have the pride flag. It's just, if you don't have the pride flag or display it, then you're gray.
Right. And you better have don't have an outdated pride flag either. You got to have the most recent one.
The most recent one, and that changes every 10 to 15 minutes?
Possibly.
Yeah.
All I know is that the newest one I've seen is probably outdated.
Yeah. And, I was just, it's funny you should mention that flag thing too, because, they're classifying the Betsy Ross flag as a potential
military violent extremism.
Yeah, violent extremism, homegrown terrorism type of thing.
Yeah.
And all these other patriotic emblems and flags and symbols. But I think the biggest form of aesthetic terrorism is the gay pride flag.
One of them, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, not far behind is, the hammer and sickle.
Yep.
And
because they're almost the same. They behave
fist.
the same way.
And the black pride fist, the one that you see on the flags and stuff, that actually started with communism, because it was
well, the founders of Black Lives Matter are trained Marxists.
Yeah. And that's where all this springs from. And that's the crazy thing. All this stuff springs from communism. It all springs from communism and Marxism.
Yeah, they're really trying to tear at the absolute root, the very fabric that we're woven on. You know, that this country was founded on. They're trying to corrupt it in any way, shape, or form, and be able to tear down the family unit and make everybody basically an individual.
Yes.
Because
as individuals, it's easy to take stuff from you when you're an individual.
Yeah, and they're also sowing inherent distrust between people.
Yeah.
Because if you don't trust your neighbor, then you're not going to go to anybody for help.
Yeah.
So the individual is easy to take down. Nobody has your back. And that's the thing too, is we need to learn to trust each other. We may have some things that maybe we don't like about each other, in different things that might kind of grind our gears a little bit, and but that's not a reason to distrust somebody. We're all individuals. Yes, we all have our own little quirks and, things that we do that might bug somebody else, but that's not a reason to dislike, distrust, hate. We need to stick together to overcome this. And more important than that is if you're a family, you need to stick together as a family. If you're related, if you're a blood relative, something like, you need to stick together. Because that's their ultimate goal, is to destroy the family unit. And Black Lives Matter founders have said that. Yeah.
They said that, they want to destroy the concept of the nuclear family.
Yep.
That's inherent in white supremacy, along with being on time for work. That's also a white supremacist notion.
Oh yeah, I'd heard something about that where. There was a health department.
Several other things.
Yeah, this health department of this particular city, and they were going to have a meeting, and then an email was put out that they were going to have to push it back, because quote being, or not quote, because I don't remember it exactly, but I'd have to look that up, is that adhering to a schedule or being on time was inherently white trait or marker or something along those lines. I'm gonna have to look that up because I want that exact quote. But what else do we have to speak on?
We have one of the last things. Actually, that is the last thing. We've gone through pretty much everything on our list besides the people in Mexico. And this is U.S. citizens in Mexico. They're overrunning the borders, heading down south. No, not like people are heading up into the U.S., but they are moving south into the northern parts of Mexico, down through the border, down through San Ysidro in Southern California. They're going into Tijuana because they are getting some pretty great deals on, things, normal, everyday commodities that we have here in the U.S., but here in the U.S., they're just too darn expensive, especially if you're living in Southern California, San Diego area. Gas is like $6 or more per gallon. Your gallon of milk is going up over $6 now. Your eggs are getting pretty expensive, over $4 in some areas. And this is if you're shopping at the cheap stores, and I'm not talking about going to Barron's Market or any of these, or the Farmer's Market, or any of these high quality stores where you'd be paying much more. I'm talking your Walmart prices are that expensive, and it's just kind of getting out of hand. And so these people in the southern parts of California and the southern states are now crossing over into Mexico because they can get their goods and services for a reasonable price. Yeah, I mean, milk, they said down there in Tijuana is half off.